Hello, you blossoming, beautiful cactus flower. Welcome back to the Collective Practice Podcast. I'm Lauren Spalding, and this is a podcast for mental health and wellness entrepreneurs where we talk all things business, clinical, and mental health. Let's just take a moment and have a collective deep breath. 1, 2, 3. My goodness, if you are in Texas, you had a banner month. I'm in Texas, near Austin, and wow, February was an intense month. I don't know if you've been following me since I started my social media journey, but last February was also wild for me because my spouse and I are pretty confident we both had COVID before there was any testing or too much awareness around it in the States. And I remember last year in February feeling like death for most of the month and having these like ongoing respiratory symptoms after we got better. So to have another February in 2021 feel like it completely went off the rails was a lot. And so, of course, right now, I'm very focused on my own mental health, as I'm sure a lot of therapists are, as we have been navigating our own stressors and collective trauma that we're all experiencing as we create safe spaces for our clients to process their traumas and the things coming up in this past year. I mean, it's just been one for the books. All of the Shonda Rhimes plot twists. We have experienced all of them. So with that being said, as a lot of us as therapists, counselors, social workers, etc., are coming back into our routine after such a wild week, I wanted to take some time to focus on our own mental health right now. And I wanted to dedicate today's episode to our own collective care as caregivers. And so I want to talk about a few things that you can be doing to take care of yourself during such a difficult year, such a difficult month, a difficult season. I mean, it's all been a lot. We can love our job so much and also acknowledge that it is a very demanding job. We really have to show up. It's not like a desk job or a traditional 9-to-5 where you have some moments where you can just kind of zone out or do, busy work. A lot of what we do, a lot of our paid work is us being really present and really with our clients or being very present while we do their notes and their treatment planning. And it just requires a lot of us. So that being said, let's take a moment and focus on our own care today. Care tip number 1, make sure that you have a routine or a version of a routine as you transition out of your workday and into your personal life. This is so important right now as a lot of us are also working from home through all of the madness. And so we don't have that separation of ending our day in an office and then driving to our house and that kind of time in the car to unwind. But even if you are working from your office or even when you do eventually go back to the office, this is a habit that you should form and keep even if you have that break from office to home. Because when we work in a very emotionally demanding field, when we're holding hard stories and traumas and healing spaces, we need to be mindful of the impact that can have on us, even if we're not fully feeling it in the moment. We could experience secondary trauma, we can experience compassion fatigue, caregiver fatigue, and it's really, really important that we make that an important component to our work. That it's not just about our clients, but it's also about us. And for us to show up for our clients, we have to make sure that we're also showing up for ourselves. So If you are someone who likes routine, I recommend having something that feels really aligned with that value. It might be a little bit more regimented, like I'm going to end my day with notes, then I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes, and then I'm going to change out of my work clothes into leisure clothes and blah, blah, blah. And so maybe you have this written down somewhere or have it on your screensaver on your phone or your laptop as something that can remind you that this is your go-to routine to unwind. If you don't like that, if anything that feels regimented feels not good to your system in any way, like maybe it feels confining or not doable, or overwhelming, then don't think so much as having a routine, but think of various options of 1 to 2 things you can do to end your day and unwind. And you don't have to do necessarily the same thing every day, but you have that same mentality of, I'm going to do something to note the end of this energy space and the beginning of a different energy, which is what we live in our personal life with our loved ones or even just ourselves. So some ideas for unwinding from your day could be meditation, and that could be guided meditation like Kristen Neff's self-compassion meditations on her website, which are free, or maybe Headspace or Calm. I believe Headspace now has a little series on Netflix if you don't have the app, but you want to access some of their meditations. Or if you don't like guided meditation, maybe you could just put on some soft music and just allow yourself to focus on your body or your breath. Just something that you can do to bring calmness and clarity to your mind, which has been working really, really hard all day. Another great exercise you could try would be building a sand tray for your day. Any emotions or thoughts or body sensations that came up, creating a visual in the sand, something tactile that you can do to kind of process your day and let it go. Or bringing in some expressive therapy tools like writing or drawing, painting, anything like that, where you can use your creativity to process your day and shift energy, shift focus. Or maybe you could have a little Zen garden or create a mandala, something like that, that is mindfulness, but it's just allowing kind of free flow thought, free flow movement, and has really no agenda at all to it. It's a great idea to have some type of transitional piece in your ritual, like shutting your laptop completely off and putting it away, or changing your outfit from your work attire to your leisurely attire. That could even look like putting your phone away. I personally like to treat my cell phone like a house phone now. I have noticed that I really, really need that technology boundary, and I need that break from a screen or from even like screen time communication, even if it's just like a text message. We are doing that all day with telehealth. We're communicating with people in this like kind of bizarre way that our brains aren't fully wired to do. So I put the sound on my phone, and I leave it in my bedroom or leave it on the counter, and just give myself that break from answering people for a little bit. Maybe you could bring in your 5 senses for your ritual. So maybe you bring in, say, taste, and you have like a little wind down snack or a mindfulness eating moment as you transition out of seeing clients. Maybe touch, that could be again sand, or it could be Play-Doh or clay. It could be stress balls or fidgets. You could bring in sound with meditation sounds, binaural beats, chakra melodies, things like that. We could bring in movement and feeling with our body by doing a little bit of stretching, a little bit of yoga, or even going on a walk in between our workday and transitioning into the rest of our evening. Maybe you want to bring in smell with essential oils, or if you have like a particular candle scent that you like, And then, of course, sight could be mindfulness coloring, or it could be creating something that's visual, like painting, drawing, or maybe you have a picture of a place that feels very relaxing and calming that you just take a moment to look at. Lots and lots of ideas to unwind from your day, and I just want you to note that this is a really important piece to your workday, that you need to make sure that you're adding into your workday at least for the majority of your days. I also recommend having a transition day in your week. That may not be possible at the beginning of your career as you're building your calendar and you might have more extensive availability, but when you eventually get to a point where you're kind of scaling down what you do or leaning into your ideal calendar, I recommend having a day of the week where you have work things, but not necessarily are working with clients. And that's kind of this transition day from our clinical work into our weekend. I noticed when I first started seeing clients, I worked Monday through Friday and I worked about 6 to 8 hours a day, not all with clients, but in total, because I thought of our job like a traditional 9 to 5. Well, it's not a traditional 9 to 5. It's a different energy level, it's a different stamina, and it demands different parts of our brains. So I recognized that 5 days a week wasn't good for me, it wasn't healthy, and I would have rather put one more client on each day and taken an extra day off and created a 3-day weekend than have less clients spread out throughout the week. Now, everyone's different. You might be listening to this and be like, no, that sounds like too much, and that's totally fine. Figure out what works with your schedule. But if you do work Monday through Friday and you have some say in your schedule, see if maybe on Monday or Friday or even Thursday, you could work like a half day and end your day with only administrative work or only creative work if you do like podcasts or social media, so that you can transition out of your week from clinical and kind of unwind and be more geared for a nice relaxing weekend. I noticed for me that when I was working until Friday and working till Friday evening, it took a while for me to transition out of that clinical energy and to really transition into my weekend, which our weekends are very valuable. They allow us to relax and run errands and meet our needs. And it just didn't work for me to have this like last client of the day and then boom, it's the weekend. I needed some time to really flow through that and end my week on administrative tasks. And so now I see clients Monday through Thursday, and then Fridays are reserved for meetings, networking, trainings, and my own personal development, and that includes rest. Which leads me to care tip number 2, schedule rest. Do not tell yourself that you'll rest when you have time. It's pretty obvious that time will always fill itself as we think of all of the ways we have brought convenience into our lives in the 21st century, and yet we still feel so busy and so overworked and so overwhelmed. Because when we do something to gain time, but we don't actually mindfully not fill that time, we will find a way to fill that time with errands or last minute things or obligations or what have you. We need to have really, really good time boundaries around rest. So that could look like literally writing rest on your calendar for the week or putting it into your calendar on your phone. However you track your day, putting in spaces where you block it for like 2 hours or more and you say that you're going to rest during that time. And whatever rest looks like to you, do that. If it looks like being active, working out, going on a hike, going on a walk, perfect. If it looks like resting your body, doing nothing or meditating or taking a nap, do it. You need rest. Your body needs rest. Your mind needs rest. Being a therapist is not a sprint. It's a marathon, and it's a very long career that you have. And if you don't schedule rest, you're going to have some very bad work boundaries and bad working habits that are going to make you feel burnt out or lead you to feel caregiver fatigue. And it's just overall not good for your mental health, which is not good for you, your loved ones, or your clients. And care tip number 3, have your own therapist. This is vital to our profession. If you are a new therapist and this hasn't sank in yet, please take this as your sign to get your own care. All of us experienced this in grad school and in our internship, that our own stuff comes out in our work. We have a lot of our own mental health stuff to work on as we continue in our profession, and that's a really good thing. It is so important for us to acknowledge our own growth edges, our own blind spots, our own triggers, so that we can be a better therapist for our clients. And I personally feel that clinical consultation is not enough. That's not enough to really help you unpack the relationship side of what we do. I think that clinical consultation sometimes just looks like getting advice on a client. And we need more than that. We need to make sure that we're exploring countertransference, that we're exploring our own personal stories and our personal biases that could be impacting our therapeutic approach with certain clients. So I recommend having your own individual therapist or being a part of group therapy, anything that allows for some type of therapeutic exploration of your job and person of the therapist is really, really important and vital for you to continually be able to provide quality care to your patients. And I would recommend group over individual. I think individual has a lot of benefits, and if you can afford to have an individual therapist, by all means do it. Don't hesitate. But you also need community. You don't want to feel alone in your experience, especially when you're struggling with things like compassion fatigue or imposter syndrome, caregiver fatigue, secondary trauma. When you can be in some type of group environment with other therapists that are going through that, it can really feel healing to feel less alone in that and to share your experience with others and to help each other grow and heal and learn. And so that is my final care tip that I think is one of the most important care tips. If you are a mental health practitioner, you should be addressing your own mental health in your own therapeutic way. And of course, it doesn't have to be necessarily traditional therapy. It could be working with a shaman, or it could be working with a spiritual healer or a body worker. There's so many different ways that we can address that. But within that, I recommend really making sure that your goal there is therapeutic goals and not so much like, I want to learn a new skill, or I just carry stress and I'm doing something to relieve the stress, but you're not doing that deeper work that can really transcend your therapy and how you show up for your clients. So those are my few care tips for today. I'm sure there's a million more that I could share, and I do try to share them often on my social media. So if you're not following me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, be sure to do that. All the links are down below, and continue to care for yourself in the collective practice community, because collective care is important. Thanks so much for joining me today and for taking some time to yourself in listening to this podcast. This is caring for yourself and your business. Be sure to stay in touch. All of my contact information is below, and be sure to check out all of my free and affordable resources that I'm creating for you. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. As we wind down from this episode, take a moment to reflect on your key takeaways. How can you care for your business and yourself this week? Don't forget, you are awesome and worthy of a hugely successful career. I hope to help you and support you along the way. I'll see you in the Collective Practice Facebook group and in the masterclass. Visit laurenspalding.co for more details. Talk to you soon, friend.